What is public history's relationship to educators? Public history is generally understood as the history outside of academia or the classroom, what could be called informal education. But that doesn't mean there aren't links or relations between the two. In fact, they are very much connected. After my internship this summer, I conceptualized public history as the confluence of history, education, and public need, which is very different from the preconceived understanding that I had of public history coming into it. Coming into the internship, I didn't have any real world public history experience. My initial notions of public history were largely colored by my classes and coursework as an MA student in both history and curriculum and instruction. To me, public history was simply the overlap between history and education. However, as the summer progressed, I came to understand that it is actually the negotiations between history, education, and public need. Changes in any of the three strands lead to an adaptation and evolution in the field of public history. I had the opportunity to witness this process firsthand this past summer. This summer, I spent a few weeks working with the East Tennessee Historical Society in Knoxville, Tennessee. The East Tennessee Historical Society, or ETHS for short, is located within the East Tennessee History Center that contains a handful of other historical research institutions for the region. When I showed up, ETHS's museum education initiatives were already in line with what is now my newfound model for understanding public history. These initiatives were, and continue to be, spearheaded by the ETHS Education Department. They strive to take the materials and information from the museum and deliver it in ways that match current pedagogical techniques, reflect modern historical thought, and address the needs of the public. I got to personally witness how the digital methodologies of history and education get applied to meet an increasingly digitally plugged in public. Public history audiences extend much further than the traditional four walls of a building. Increasingly, the museums must go to the audience instead of the audience coming to the museum. A ready-made, non-traditional public history audience is students in the classroom. Museums are already typically written at an accessible reading level. Students regularly take field trips to the institutions, and at ETHS, their museum is even arranged in a manner that reflects the eras outlined in the Tennessee State Social Studies Standards. However, in order to reach the students in the classroom, the institution has to go through the teacher. That was the focus of my efforts at ETHS as we strove to deliver resources to teachers that they both wanted and needed. Many meetings with the education department at ETHS determined my work for the summer. I designed digital education supplements based on the museum's holdings that teachers could use in their classroom. This included worksheets to accompany content essays that the museum had already produced, and digital resources like this map. After the Historical Society's original success with the essays, educators began requesting more materials, and ETHS was happily striving to oblige. In addition to producing resources, ETHS hosted a couple of professional development sessions for educators to come learn techniques and gain access to material from the institution. One example of these workshops is the Teaching with Primary Sources program. This Library of Congress funded initiative helps educators learn how to implement primary sources, presumably found at the Library of Congress online database, into their classroom effectively. Much like ETHS, this program goes through the teacher in order to deliver the materials to the students. As you can see, public history and educators are very interconnected, especially with institutions like ETHS striving to meet their needs. The give and take relationships among history, education, and public need help shape the types of materials public history institutions produce, where they deliver them to, and for whom they make them, like this new teacher resources page on ETHS's website that I helped design. The transfer of sound historical scholarship to a general audience is based off of pedagogical foundations, and my work at ETHS was a great example of public history returning to its roots.